say what you want about intentional, unintentional. It's really the gloves. But hey, it's your boy DHP, the realest and baddest MMA podcast in the world. And welcome into another installment of the Weekend Recap. By the way, if my voice seems a little deeper than usual or raspy or I just have low energy, I caught something late yesterday and I'm way better now, but I'm still under the weather. But even though I'm under the weather, the show must go on. I'm still going to give y'all niggas this content. So we got 4 things on the menu today. We're going to talk about Steve Garcia and his potential rise to featherweight, the gloves, and I'm going to put the gloves as the thumbnail of this video about these eye pokes, as I believe is either this week or next week they're gonna have a meeting about the eye pokes. But not only that, the Apex, no Apex. Do y'all niggas like the Apex? Y'all let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that good shit. Do y'all like the Apex, or y'all rather, the UFC go out to how it used to be? Even with like some of the cards is not appealing, and we're gonna get to more of that during that segment. Even if some of the cards is not appealing, they were still able to go out to small cities and venture out like that. So would y'all rather have Apex or no Apex, And then we're going to talk about Ronda'S little Lashout on the MMA community. Other than, some of the fights this weekend and Taporia news and all this other shit. I'm going to address that in a different video. Ronda took the headlines again, as, she usually does, because she's attention seeking. If the spotlight not on her, then she say some wild shit. We're gonna get to it at the end of the video, because I have some thoughts on that. But let me start over with Steve Garcia. Like I said in the review show, he impressed me with how patient he was. Now, on a little big picture scale, can he make a run at featherweight? And before, leading up the fight week, I didn't make a video on it, but I seen Media Day. He called out Volk, talking about Volk need to fight and shit like that. He need to stop cooking, because that whole little cooking with Volk shit. But I don't think Steve Garcia in a position to even call out somebody. Shit. Wind right now is very strong. Hold on. Let me adjust this camera a little bit. Feel me? This damn wind. But I don't even think Steve Garcia in a position to even call out somebody like Volk, right? And then on top of that, they're working on a matchup. So they ain't like Volk got the title back. Now he just, sitting on his ass, cooking all the damn time. They working on the matchup. They're working on the matchup. There's a lot of shit at play though, which I don't think Steve Garcia understands. There's a lot of, and I know he probably don't even give a fuck. He probably just worried about himself. But before Leroy Murphy did what he did, it was a foregone conclusion that it was going to be Volk and Yair too. Marcel Evlov was going to get skipped over. So it was going to be pretty much dead and set that Volk and Yair was going to run the rematch back. He was going to defend the belt against Yair. Then Leroy Murphy did what he did, and now it was looking like Leroy, Volk's about to defend against Leroy, but it seems like now it's kind of shifted. So, which is why I said, we just got to wait and see, because Marcel Evlov still got his head poked out. Then you got Yair, but now it's looking like Leroy and Diego Lopez about to fight. So Volk, they got options. They got to weigh in their options. If Leroy Murphy, let's just say Leroy Murphy beat Aaron Pico. If he would have beat Aaron Pico in just like a normal fashion, then more than likely they was gonna go with Volk and Yair. But it's just the fact that how he beat Aaron Pico, it low-key kind of fucked everything up, because now they looking at it where now they got to capitalize on the moment type shit. So should Leroy skip over Yair and Marcel Evlov because of that spinning elbow? You know what I mean? But I know that Steve Garcia, in his case, he really don't give a fuck. He just looking at it where no announcement been made, and Volk is steadily making content, being a cooking content creator and shit. So, but in Steve Garcia's case, could he make a legit run at featherweight if he keeps on improving? You know, he already got the power, and I've said it. Go check the tape. The only way I thought he would beat David was if, you know, he bait David into some inside boxing where he can show off his power, you know, which he did show off his power, just in a more methodical, patient way that I didn't think he was capable of. So, but I went ahead and checked the rankings. I went back through my video that I made, and you can make some interesting matchmaking fights with Steve Garcia. You can either go with him and Pitbull, because him and Pitbull is legit right there in the rankings next to each other, and they both coming off wins. Or you can give him like Josh Emmett. I'm not even gonna say T-City, because we don't know what the fuck going on with T-City. But if you want to skip ahead some, you know, you can give him Yusuf Zalal. So you got Josh Emmett, Pitbull. Now Josh Emmett is kind of coming off a loss to Leron Murphy, but it wasn't like a real damaging fight where he took it like real serious damage. So you could make that by like the springtime, like early spring of 2026 next year. Oh, and then you got, and I mentioned him during the review, you know, Arnold Allen. So you got a lot of interesting matchups you can make with Steve Garcia. And if he want to fight, if he want to fight like very inside the top 10. And by the way, hold on, this helicopter right here. And by the way, I heard what he said about Max Holloway. What the fuck is up with these niggas calling out Max? Like, Max, first off, you're not even in position. It's kind of like Joaquin Buckley. When Joaquin Buckley called out Conor, I'm like, y'all niggas is not even in position to even call out somebody like that. You know what I mean? First off, Max ain't coming back to featherweight. There's a reason why Max, you know, and I get it, for those in the comments or whatever, I get it. Steve Garcia, he can go up to lightweight, but why we even fuck up the position you in trying to fight inside the top 10 rankings just to go out for like an expedition? Well, I can't even say expedition match, but more like it's a gimmick belt. Like, let's be honest. Like, Max Holloway, yeah, that shit dope and whatever. It's cool, but it's really just like it's like on some WWE type shit. For those that watch wrestling, I remember last time I actually watched like a full show and season of wrestling, they had like the 24/7 title belt, and before then it was like the back in the Attitude Era, they had like the hardcore title belt and shit like that, where, you know, at any time niggas can fight for that belt type shit, anytime, anywhere. You know, it wasn't like the main belts in the storyline where it, you know, they have like their little build up storyline and then they, you know, wrestle for the belt at the pay-per-view. Like, it's like shit like that. Like the BMF belt that was introduced to the UFC is more like a side quest type title fight, you know. It's more like, it's like a side quest type thing for like super fights, you know. So I'm like, bro, I'm pretty sure like if he was, let's just say hypothetically he was to fight Max, I mean the payday would be much more better, but it really does nothing. It really does nothing for your progression of your career. So I don't understand why he even called out Max, but there's some interesting matchups. You got Emmett, Arnold Allen, Yusuf Zala, and Pitbull Patricio. So any one of those four matchups would be actually, now ideally, if he wants to keep fighting inside, you know, the top 10 and push his name up into the rankings, he could definitely fight Yusuf Zala because they both coming off wins, and Yusuf is like 6th or 7th. So that would be perfect. That would be perfect. That would basically be the equivalent of Brendan Allen and RDR. For real, if you want to keep it a buck. But y'all let me know. Y'all think Steve Garcia for real? Y'all think he can, you know, I want to see more. Like I said on the review, I want to see more, but you know, if he keep improving and he keep knocking these niggas out, I mean, I don't see why not. I'll fully embrace him being inside the top 5 and, you know, actually, you know, putting his name in the hat as far as like contenders and shit like that. But we'll see when we get to that time. Now, while it's on the fresh in my mind, because we talked about the main event or the nigga that was in the main event. Now we gotta go to the co-main event. With the heavyweights, right? And it's, like I said in the review, it's very ironic and funny that the situation with Tom Aspinall happened. Then Tom's teammate do the exact same thing, but he's on the opposite end where he ended up eye-poking somebody, but that nigga ended up continuing and he ended up getting the finish, right? So my whole ordeal, my whole main thing, you can say it's intentional, not intentional, whatever. Bruh, it's the gloves, bruh. I'm fully 100%, and this is my opinion, nobody else's, just from my personal observation, analysis, and I've been saying this for years. It is the gloves. Like, if they go back, and I'm going to put the picture in the thumbnail of this video, if they go back to, like, the Pride gloves, or even, like, the Bellator, like, I got to go do extended research on the Bellator gloves, but if they go to those type of gloves, I guarantee you it will reduce the amount of eye pokes. If you look at the UFC gloves, they're, like, real skinny, and they don't have, like, you know, I wish I was good at editing enough where I can show like the pictures as I'm talking. But the UFC gloves is like real skinny to the point where their whole bare fingers is like legit out. So all you gotta do is just, you know, in certain cases, you know, in the heat of the moment, you extended your hands and your arms and shit like that, and you know, you could. Now, truth be told, some eye pokes are accidental. More times than not, it's intentional, but in some cases, it is accidental. But it's kind of like headbutts, you know. Some headbutts are accidental. Some is just blatant, just, you know, they trying to get a foul so they can stall some time. But it's all, you know, you can extend your hands out, right? Like, let me show y'all. Like, extend your hands out, right? Now, some guys, what they do is they'll put out their hands like that. And John Jones like to do this a lot. He'll put his hands out like that, right? Matter of fact, let me show y'all. Let me show y'all real quick. Let me turn the camera around. All right, so instead of like this, right? Stand right this, right? Sometimes what they do, they put their hands out like that. And then sometimes we go for a punch, right? But sometimes they'll go like that. They'll put their hands out for range. And then when they step in, go like that, you know, it happens like that sometimes. So with cases like that, you know, it's not intentional or unintentional. It's really the gloves. I promise you, it's all in the gloves. We need to do something. Hold on, I had to get a sip of my sweet tea. I would honestly, now thinking about it, I would like to be I would like to, excuse me, let me get my words together. I would like to be the fly on the wall on that meeting. Because, and you know what, now I think about it, when the UFC introduced the golden gloves for like the champions, I want to know how many eye posts have we had in those title fights. I need to see how many eye pokes had we had in those title fights, because those gloves was low key different. They was some different gloves from the OG UFC gloves. So I might do extended research from what I, from my personal opinion. I'm gonna do some extended research on the gloves. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna do some extended research on the UFC Golden Championship gloves from the original gloves, because especially, it was like, I forgot which, I want to say it was like Islam and no, it wasn't Islam and Dustin Poirier. It was John Jones and Stipe Miocic. I think it was that fight. I think it was that pay-per-view card where Dana talked about the. Yeah, it was a John Jones and Stipe Miocic pay-per-view card. Dana talked about how, but that card, go back and look at the card. The card was low-key full of OGs that had the original gloves. So Dana, they talked about it, how they went back to the OG gloves because that's what they prefer. I'm going to do some extended research on those, like the new Golden Championship gloves, because I don't remember, a lot of eye pokes with them gloves. We seen a lot of eye pokes with the OG gloves. Now, the picture I'm going to show in the thumbnail is going to be the Pride gloves. We need to go to something like that, basically. It will cut all that shit out. But that's really my opinion with the gloves for it. I mean, or the eye pokes rather. Excuse me. It's all in the gloves. Like, you can't really say, like, these niggas, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And yeah, like I said, some of it is intentional because they, they trying to get a foul so they can catch their breath. But some of these niggas be putting their hands out and shit like that. Like I showed, they be doing that shit just so, they can find a range. So I'm telling you, it's the gloves. It's all in the gloves, bro. Because you can't really convince me otherwise, because I watch too many fights. I know who's doing it intentionally, who's doing it not intentionally. I know who's trying to do some dirty tactics. Like, we could go down the list with some dirty tactics and shit like that with, niggas. And somebody pointed out on social media about Islam, the way he grapples. A lot of these niggas put their fingers into the other niggas' gloves and shit like that for grip. And they use that to their advantage and shit like that. Like, I watch too many fights and I know what the fuck going on to see who's doing it intentionally, unintentionally, dirty tactics, shit like that. But I want to know what y'all thoughts. Like, is it the gloves? Is the gloves an excuse? And, more than likely, it's either this week or next week, like I said about the meeting. More than likely, all they gonna do is just take a point away. That's all they probably gonna do is just take a point away. Either I would be very surprised if they do something financially, because it wouldn't make sense. You have to do something in the fight. So I'm willing, to bet money that they probably gonna do a point deduction. Basically, how it used to be back in the Pride days for the niggas, for the OGs of the sport. Y'all know how they used to do it back in the Pride days. Nigga, you would get a point deduction in an instant. Like, real shit. You would get a point deduction in an instant. So I would bet some money it's going to be a point deduction. And if it continues to happen, say like the second or third time, then they probably going to DQ you. But y'all let me know. Y'all let me know about the gloves. Cause is it the gloves? Is it not the gloves? Is it these niggas need to stop doing dirty shit? Y'all let me know in the comments. So, third topic of the day is the Apex, bro. and this is gonna be a quick one. We need to get rid of the Apex, plain and simple. The Apex really should only be for the Dana White Contender Series. It should only be for the Dana White Contender Series. Weed, I understand for what it was. You know, when we was doing the Apex during the COVID times, it was actually a refreshing thing to see because you could actually hear like the niggas' corners and shit. So like this past weekend, like David Onamba, when Steve was gonna come in, you know, throw his combinations, he would always lift up, you know, his lead leg. And David's corner picked up on it, and they was screaming out to David to let him know, like, when he's ready to come in, you know, to throw his combinations, this is what he's doing. He's lifting up his lead leg, and that's how you know he's getting ready to throw, right? So during that time, when everything was shut down and the UFC started to do like heavy testing on if you had Rona or not, and then you could go in and fight in Apex, it was refreshing to hear like the niggas' corners and shit like that. But now it's to the point where I feel like we've outgrown the Apex. We've outgrown like real events at the Apex. Even if the card is not appealing, like I said on the review, cards like this is probably not appealing to a promoter. But at the same time, we've been doing this shit for years and years and years with cards that's not appealing, but we still end up going to like, you know, smaller markets. And while the cards that's like either super loaded or just semi-loaded, they'll go out to the bigger cities like Boston at the TD Garden, maybe Houston at the Toyota Center, you know, shit like that. I think it's time to move on from like having events at the Apex, and it's probably much more to like something that's out of our control, or with the, you know, us podcasters, content creators, whatever, see, like it might be something like financially, you know, there might be something financially tied into the Apex where, okay, financially we can do this and that, let's say in Vegas, or like if we want to have a fight night, we could do it at in Atlanta at State Farm Arena, like with Hakeem Buckley and Marty Usman, or the pay-per-view. We could have one of the pay-per-views at, let's see, I'm trying to think of a one that's not really okay, like JDM and Islam in next week at Madison Square Garden. Okay, so we can do this, that. Oh, my camera fell, excuse me. But so we can do this, that, and that, right? Okay, so now we have that going on. So financially, we only could do maybe like one or two more, and then we gotta go back to the Apex. If that makes sense, it's like it might be something to where they have a certain amount of, you know, events that have to go to big cities and big markets, and then smaller markets, and then the rest of the shit gotta go to the Apex, right? Because financially, and it's kind of like the shit where it's like racing for those that like motocross and shit like that. There's certain shit they do to save money, because the cost of moving dirt to make the tracks and shit like that in the stadiums is costly. And for those that don't know, failed entertainment, you know, some of the, you know, the cities that they go to have these races, and the venues and the stadiums that they rent for the races, it's easier for them to race in the stadium that they're gonna have the Monster Jam in, because failed that side of things for racing, failed entertainment, they have the dirt bikes and the Monster Jam. So half of the time the races be on the same weekend as the Monster Jam, so financially it'd be easier for them to race there, because they get to save the dirt, they get to use the dirt twice. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So correlating back to the UFC, it's probably a financial saver for them to have these events at Apex. So I can understand why we still have the Apex, but at the same time, it's like they would make a little bit more money if, I don't know if they would make more money, but it's kind of like, for niggas that watching on TV, right? For the viewers, even to draw like a newer crowd or fan base. Although the cars may not appealing, y'all know how this shit go. When cars like this, what we just had a couple days ago, these be the most banger ass cards for real, because all these niggas, they fighting to get somewhere, right? It's not like the main stars, where certain matchups with the main stars, the superstars, we do get hella crazy fights because that's how they fight, and that's how they became a star, and that's how they remain a star. But some of these unknown niggas, they trying to fight to get to that spot. So they fighting and jockeying position to get to that stardom spot. So these niggas gonna fight their heart outs, which is why I always say, yeah, it don't look appealing on paper, but these be the cards that be low-key bangers when we look back at the best cards of the year. So even though it may not be appealing to a promoter, the shit that we saw this past weekend, and you add a good sizable crowd to it, it would have been like UFC. It ain't got to be UFC Paris type, but it would be like on that type of playing field, you know, which is why I say we kind of outgrown the Apex, because yeah, the card was good, but for certain niggas, they want to feel the atmosphere, and to get niggas on board, the crowd is everything, especially in this generation. Like, crowd atmosphere is low-key everything nowadays, just how this generation is. And for me in particular, I'm an OG of the sport, or an OG viewer of the sport. Sometimes I would like to see, and I say it all the time about the crowd, sometimes I criticize the crowd, sometimes I give the crowd amazing praise. Like, the crowd is everything. The crowd can make or break an event, you know. But I personally think we just outgrown the Apex. There's really no need to have a standard fight night at the Apex. Just go to a smaller, if need to be, just go to a smaller market, like unknown. I wouldn't say unknown, but go to like a hockey arena. You know what I mean? Like, there's no need for the Apex. Same way I talked about, the difference between Tough and DWCS. The Apex had its time where it was cool, but now we outgrown it. It's time to go back to how we used to be, and just going back to like all these different markets and shit like that. But y'all let me know in the comments. No Apex, keep doing the Apex, or no Apex, And the last thing I want to talk about, Ronda Rousey. Everybody's favorite women's MMA fighter. Now, let me start off by saying Valentina, so she just spoke about this, and she basically said the opposite. Like, Joe Rogan is good for the sport, because Ronda said that Joe Rogan is really just a fan, not an expert. What the fuck has he done type shit. And to piggyback, not to piggyback, but to give some context, so Ronda pretty much she basically lashed out, is basically what the fuck she did. She lashed out on the MMA community, talking about, the WWE fans treat her better type shit. Basically, WWE treated her better or the fans treated her better than MMA fans, which I agree. I totally agree. Cause what she was saying, because basically to MMA fans, like, what have you done for me lately type shit. But at the same time, I do agree with her overall thesis or the base of her, her statement. But it's not like that for everybody, because GSP, even when GSP got heavily criticized, not fighting Anderson Silva, niggas still give GSP his flowers. Everybody like GSP. Even Robert Whitaker. Robert Whitaker is going on. It seemed like that his time and era is done, and niggas is still rooting for Bobby Knuckles. Volk. The shit. Volk is still getting his flowers. Even Charlie Olives, Charlie Olives, he's still getting his flowers, even though it was looking like this was it. Now, I do agree especially with the newer fans, it is kind of like, what have you done for me lately? Because they haven't seen like the best of it. Even with Jon Jones, I feel like this generation, they haven't seen like Jon Jones in his prime heyday. And Jon is more like on this Tom Brady type shit, where he's that good to where he's able to compete and win in like 2 to 3 different generations. So while he's basically on the tail end, he's still winning, but he's not the same Jon Jones. So therefore, this new generation is kind of like, 1 foot in, 1 foot out with Jon. While somebody like me, I'm just like, this shit is like icing on the fucking cake, because I already seen the best of Jon Jones. All this other shit is just extra gravy to the main dish, So, but from the comments I've been seeing, and even with like niggas like Bo Nickel, and even with RDR, even though I had my own criticisms of RDR, but I'm still a fan. It is like a what have you done for me lately type crowd. But at the same time, the Ronda Ronda must have forgot the shit that she did. Because I already listed like a couple niggas that, yeah, they was on their loser streak, whatever. And in GSP case, he didn't want to go up and fight Anderson Silva for that super fight. But he's still regarded as one of the GOATs of the UFC, and niggas still give him flowers for how good he is in the octagon and how nice of a person he is. Ronda must have forgot the dumb shit that she did for the MMA fans to turn their back on her. At one point in time, Ronda was so protected. And I'm not even talking about how the UFC booked the fights or how Dana protected Ronda. I'm talking about from the fans. Ronda Rousey was the most protected, dare I say, even over Conor. Like, she was the most protected fighter in the UFC. You couldn't say one thing bad about Ronda before her fan base just try to jump on you and, talk some shit back. But the more dumb shit that Ronda did, it all started with Holly. Now, I know a lot of niggas forget about the Miesha Tate shit, because she said, like, when her and Miesha was on that season of Tough, when they was coaching that season of Tough, Ronda said some slick shit to Miesha, and I was like, because honestly, I was a fan of both. I was a fan of Ronda, and I was a fan of Miesha. But the shit that she said to Miesha, that shit threw me for a loop. I'm like, all right, bro, I'm done with you. Now I'm just throwing my support for Miesha only type shit. But niggas really didn't caught on until the Holly Holm situation, because Holly Holm is more like the quiet girl. Like, she really don't even say nothing. Holly is one of those quiet fighters who you need somebody in a market scheme of things. Holly needed somebody like Ronda, because Holly is such a quiet, and she's fun, go-lucky type fighter, where she don't like to talk a lot of shit. She just quiet. She let her skills do the talking. But to sell the fight, you need somebody like a Ronda Rousey, like a Conor McGregor, like a Chael Sonnen. You need somebody like that. And Ronda was that type of person. But there's ways to go about it. It's kind of like how niggas turn their back on Conor when the whole Khabib situation happened. Like, everybody loved Conor because of what? His trash talking. But Conor took it. Now, I personally didn't have a problem with it. And I didn't have a problem with Khabib doing what he did by beating his ass and then spitting on him. I didn't have a problem with nothing. But to the people that did have a problem with it, Conor took it too far to where it went past just a simple competition rivalry. He made it super personal to the point where it was no return. Ronda, instead of doing it to be like just a heavily competitive, rivalry, she made it a little personal than what it's supposed to be. So that was the start of her downfall. She must have forgot all that shit she did to Holly. And then after the Holly loss, the way she took the Holly loss by, she wasn't speaking. She was cowarding away from the bed that she was supposed to lie in. And then she came back or whatever. Then Amanda Nunes beat the brakes off of her. It's basically, she did it to herself. All the shit or all the fan backlash and all the things that the fans took back from Ronda, from being a fan of hers to not supporting her, she did it to herself by her actions, her attitude. Everything that she did leading up to these fights with Holly. Now, it started with me like I said, with the Misha Tate shit, but at least half of the niggas, they gonna disregard that, because Misha, she ain't no saint either. Misha ain't innocent in all this either. But Ronda took it a little too far with the shit she said with Misha. But I don't know. And then, her going into the WWE, and then especially for the niggas, that don't like WWE, because it's fake, it's scripted, whatever. Now, for the people that really don't like WWE or don't even care or bother to watch something like that, you go over there because you got your ass beat. So now they looking at that shit like you just took your ball and went home because your time is up type shit. So now that crowd is gone too. So it's kind of like she did everything. She did all this shit to herself, honestly. And then, her talking about Joe Rogan. Now, I seen the comments, a lot of niggas is bringing, some people is with her and some people is not with her. Some people is bringing in politics to it because of, Joe Rogan's beliefs or who he support politically. But my personal opinion, I don't care about all that shit. But what I do care about is, and niggas that's in my personal circle, y'all know this, Joe Rogan is actually good for the sport more than Dana White, in my personal opinion. Joe Rogan, if you actually listen to him talk MMA, and yeah, sometimes he do say some wild shit here and there, but Joe Rogan, he actually know his shit. He actually know his shit. Very intelligent about MMA and how to fix the current landscape of MMA. And I always said this. I don't think I've said it on camera, but I said it in my personal group chats, like almost like every month. Joe Rogan is we are way better off with Joe Rogan as the ambassador of the UFC than Dana White. And that's a fact. That's a fact. So I disagree with Ronda there that Joe Rogan is not an expert and he just he's just a simple fan with a platform. That's not true. I mean, that's her opinion, and she can rightfully have that opinion, but that's not true. Because if anything, Dana White, he is putting some time in the sport too, but it's just the shit that comes with Dana White. I'm like, all right, bro, like I had enough with you. But Ronda said what she said. She lashing out. I don't think she understand, or she's not acknowledging. And that's the thing about Ronda, is like she always want to play the victim. So she not acknowledging like the shit that she did to even cause this reaction from the community. So And I 100% back Valentina. Like, Joe Rogan is definitely a good ambassador for the sport of MMA. But that's all I got for y'all. It's either tomorrow or Wednesday. Might be tomorrow. I might have a fun. I got a fun video I want to talk about. You know, just on like some not serious shit. Because majority of my content been like analytical shit or like perspective videos on, if so-and-so wins or so-and-so loses. But this one, this is gonna be a fun video. So y'all stay tuned for tomorrow. But yeah, that concludes the weekend recap. So yeah, man, until tomorrow. If I don't do it tomorrow, then it's gonna be Wednesday. Like I said, my schedule's kind of wonky right now because I'm dealing with something personal, and now I'm low-key sick, but I'm getting better. So there's a lot of shit going on, but I'm still give y'all niggas this content. So anyway, y'all like, share, subscribe, comment if you want to. Like the video, dislike the video. Until I upload again, which is probably gonna be tomorrow. Holler at y'all niggas later, man.